What is up, guys? Welcome back to CageChat MMA and welcome to the UFC Vegas 19 recap. Of course, last weekend we saw Derrick Lewis destroy Curtis Blaydes in what was a very scary KO, wasn't it? You saw the aftermath of that second round knockout, and it brought us the memories back of that Overeem Ngannou finish, and I think it was worse than the Overeem Ngannou finish. Where he's lying stiff there, and it's almost it comes quite scary in the point where you're not quite sure medically how they are and how severe that knockout was. It takes us back to the Ben Askren Masvidal knockout, also because it was so sudden, but it wasn't like Derrick Lewis had been piling on him for so long, and it had sort of drawn him out for 5 minutes and then got a finish. It was one of those knockouts where it almost came out of nowhere. It was a very perfectly timed knockout, perfectly timed shot with the uppercut as Curtis Blaydes was coming into the takedown, of course. And it showed just the power of this heavyweight division, where it is at the moment. I think Curtis Blaydes won that first round 10-9 with his, he took control of that center of the octagon. He was using those calf kicks very well. He was moving about very well, almost gave Derrick Lewis the game in terms of striking. He was a bit reluctant to use those takedowns, initially, whether that was he was saving them for the latter rounds, maybe, trying to get the work and get the gas tank flowing for Derrick Lewis, take some miles out of those legs with those calf kicks, which we've become so accustomed to. But Derrick Lewis just ate him up. And there was a couple of times where you're thinking, oh, it could go either way here. There's sometimes Derrick Lewis was wobbling Blaydes and vice versa. And obviously we got to the buzzer. And Derrick Lewis came out and he looked calm as ever. He looked very composed. And Derrick Lewis is like that. He's quite cold-blooded when he gets into the octagon. He's all about the jokes and the banter when the fight is done and before building up into that fight. But once he's in there, he's just a cold-blooded animal. And obviously, you've got the likes of Francis Ngannou, it's very hard. Rosenstruck hits incredibly hard. And Derrick Lewis is up there. And obviously, he's a, 250, 260-pound man. Especially on a fight night, he's probably 270, maybe even 280. I don't know how much weight he cuts and how much he puts on post-weigh-ins. But he put on a phenomenal display. And I feel sorry for Curtis Blaydes because he's right at the top of that division. But unfortunately, he's coming away with Francis Ngannou twice, and now Derrick Lewis, two of the hardest hitting men in the division. And Curtis Blaydes is a very talented wrestler, he's a very talented fighter. But unfortunately, stylistically for him, he has come out often the shorter of the two when it's come up against a power striker, because obviously you've got to put so much work into getting a takedown. Whereas really it's hope, maybe hitting hope, for want of a better phrase, for Derrick Lewis and Francis Ngannou, albeit their striking is phenomenal. And that shows out, 13 knockout wins now. I think that is for Derrick Lewis, the most in heavyweight, I believe. And he tied Vitor Belfort as well, which is a phenomenal achievement. Because when you look at those greatest of all time and those sort of records and those stats, you don't really put Derrick Lewis in that conversation. Obviously, you look at Steve Miocic, Cain Velasquez, but Derrick Lewis is, quietly been doing his work. He's not, he hasn't even got a shine of a Francis Ngannou who's got that sort of that monster, that sort of, maybe because not to generalize it, but he's like them. Obviously, Francis Ngannou, who's chiseled, he's got that Gymshark deal. He looks the part, doesn't he? But Derrick Lewis has just been simmering away, almost like Daniel Cormier. In a way, they've got that body type that you see so much. But Derrick Lewis is an absolute monster. He deserves more credit than he gets. Obviously, he's fourth in that division now, and he will be top two. Obviously, Francis going for the title in a month's time at UFC 260. And I rate his call out, to be fair. He called out Alistair Overeem. I do think that's a smart one for him, because it's going to keep him active. Alistair Overeem has to say yes to that fight because he's coming off the back of a loss. He still wants that title opportunity and beating Derrick Lewis, and Derrick Lewis almost, holding his hand out to him, does get an opportunity to get back in the win column, to skip the line, you could say, because obviously after the loss of Volkov, he's jumped back a few steps now. But, you can pick Derrick Lewis up in the summer against Alistair Overeem. That would almost align quite nicely to the December-January title shot. So either of those two. Obviously next week we've got Gane and Rosenstruck, and I do think the winner of that gets Alexander Volkov next. I think that would be the perfect fight to make for either one of those two heavy hitters up against a 6 or 7 monster. Their division's back again, I think, especially in that top 6, top 7. Either any matchup you make in that division at the moment is exciting. Obviously, we'll talk about Tom Aspinall later on in the show. But my God, Derrick Lewis he's a scary man, isn't he? He's a scary, scary man. Poor Curtis Blaydes, it looked good up until going into that fight. It looked phenomenal again, what he did to Volkov, of course. And that does put, obviously, Derrick Lewis on a 4-fight win streak, and that for me is enough to get or grant a title shot in the future. Who it's against, we don't know. We don't even know, there could be 2 exchanges of the title, maybe 3 exchanges of the title in the next sort of 6-7 months. If Ngannou beats Stipe at 260, you could put the trilogy up. Got John Jones in the mix. Stipe could retire within that time. We don't know where this division is going to be, and it's almost a waiting game for whoever's second down to 5th in those rankings. It might be just who's maybe fitter and ready at the time who gets the next shot. You see it a lot, don't you? It's usually like you might see 3rd or 4th in the rankings get a title shot because 1st and 2nd are out or whatnot. We might even see an interim title later on in the year, perhaps. I think that could be a good shout, maybe just purely for activity, to determine a genuine number 1 contender. Otherwise, we could go around in circles with Volkov, Overeem, Blaydes, and Derrick Lewis, of course. Now for Blaydes, that was his first loss in 5 fights, of course. He beat Volkov, JDS. He'd been on a hot run himself, and now Derrick Lewis has just taken that. And, he will go 2nd in the rankings, and we will have a quick look at the rankings, of course. Again, Steve Ngannou is the one to watch. John Jones fits in there somewhere, probably in August, maybe July, August time. He's not about to cut weight, so it's not about that. It's just about how much camping, if he's ready to, if his body's filled out for heavyweight at the moment, which it looks like it has. Rosenstruck gone. That's gonna be a great fight. But yeah, I'd put the winner of that fight next week against Volkov, and obviously I think now we've got Lewis versus Overeem. So the loser of Gane or Volkov probably gets Curtis Blaydes next, you would say. I think that'd be a good fight to make up as well. Now, it was just a phenomenal knockout. It's one of those ones that almost shook you to a core. But it's also the reason you're a fan of the sport in some sort of masochistic way, I guess you could say. But to look at the results as a whole, 7 strikes. That's all it took with poor Derrick. Well, I say poor Derrick Lewis. That's all it took Derrick Lewis. 7 strikes landed out of 23, and he came out with that second round KO win. Whereas you see the output and maybe the undeservedness of that loss, you could say. But again, this sport is built on the highs and lows, you could say. And 28 out of 52 strikes there. I guess you could say the big point was 0 out of 3 takedowns. The takedown defense of Derrick Lewis held up on the night very well. And, he wasn't able to, Blaydes here wasn't able to take down Derrick Lewis. And we all know that's Blaydes' game. Once he takes you down, albeit on the contrary, we've seen Derrick Lewis get up so many times. But the majority of the time, once Blaydes takes you down, it is very hard to get back up on your feet. And he tends to grind out the round, doesn't he? Over 5 rounds. We saw that against Volkov, who's a much taller, much longer opponent, and maybe that's a bit easier rather than someone who's a smaller guy, but maybe with a bigger mass. With all due respect to Blake, with Lewis, it would have been interesting to see had the fight gone to the ground, how that would have played out. But Lewis pulled off the perfect game plan, and he came away with a phenomenal win, and he deserves all the praise he's getting. He's a good guy. He's a funny guy as well to have in the octagon, and in the UFC he brings some of the best social media highlight reels, you could say. He's always fantastic on Instagram and whatnot. But it was a good weekend of fights. The card wasn't the greatest, I'll be honest. I enjoyed the prelims, and I enjoyed seeing Tom Aspinall and Chris DeKalb, but it petered out somewhere between there. I don't know if that's because just me being a UK fan, obviously it would have been 2-3 a.m. in the morning. I just lost that sort of energy, that sort of fight night energy that you get, especially having just had UFC 258, where there was a bit of a hangover from that, because that was a banging card and one that was buzzing for all night, I guess. But this one, I think I got into bed with all due respect in the co-main event. I just watched the rest of the fight from there. But yes, we moved on to the co-main event. Yana Kunitskaya did beat Ketlen Vieira by unanimous decision to the surprise of many, when the scorecards got read out 29-28, I did think, at the time, that it was a surprising result, that a lot of the fight was Ketlen Vieira on top of Kunitskaya, controlling the fight on the ground. But again, Kunitskaya put in the work, and we'll have a quick look at the results, of course. And you can see that from the amount of output: 215 strikes out of 247, just 35 out of 51. So for me, I think that's where the victory lies. You can have the 3 out of 8 takedowns, and I'm assuming that was 1 takedown per fight. Yana Kunitskaya definitely won the second round. I gave the first round to Ketlen Vieira, and the judges obviously saw it a different way. To look down at the takedowns, I'm trying to find the stats here. So yes, 2 takedowns in that first round. So, I'm looking at the breakdown of the stats here. Two takedowns to Ketlen Vieira in the first round. 80 strikes, though, landed by Kunitskaya. A lot of those on the ground, of course. And that's huge. 80 strikes again in the second round. 0 takedowns. So yes, Kunitskaya easily won that second round. And 1 takedown and 1 takedown for Ketlen Vieira, and 55 strikes landed there for Kunitskaya. So you could say, on a pure striking basis, obviously this hasn't got a control time, unfortunately, on the UFC website. But boy, that's a lot of strikes. 160 in 10 minutes worth of work, whilst you're on your back probably in the first one for the majority of that time too. So yes, on the contrary, and on the basis of the statistics of the fight, I think we have got the right result. And the judges probably played a blinder there, because many of us probably gave it to Ketlen Vieira on the night. Obviously, she did miss weight. How much that played a part, in her maybe tiring out in that third round, and her game plan. Well, I say her game plan changed. It would have changed too much, but hopefully it didn't tax too much of their gas tank. Sorry. But all in all, a fantastic win for Kunitskaya, who obviously does put her on a bit of a win streak now. I believe a 2-fight win streak, having won in 2020 as well. So she's kicked off 2021 with a good result, and it does put her up against an Aspen led or Irene Aldana next. Obviously, we've got Holm versus Pena coming up in May, should I say? And yeah, she's going to bounce up. Obviously, she's going to take the air spot at 6. I'd book her against Aldana. Aldana needs to get back in the win column after that Holly Holm fight, and that'd be a good one for her. I think we'd book Aspen Ladd, maybe do Anime too, although we saw that and that didn't go too well for Ladd. But she's probably the next in line in terms of effort. In terms of deservingness, she's probably the next in line with those above her already tried. But again, if Pena beats Holm, then Pena probably gets the next title chance, because she's already been calling that for that since her last win, of course. And that moves on to quite nicely Charles Rosa versus Derrick Mina, should I say, or Minor, who did get a decision win over him. Obviously, 96 strikes. It was a good performance. It wasn't the fight of the night sort of worthy performance, but again, it was a good solid win for him. 96 strikes out of 117, 45 out of 60, up against 40 and 51 and 15 out of 25. He did get 4 takedowns though in that fight, so a very deserved fight and saw him win 30-26, 30-27, and 29-27 on scorecards. A bit of a bumper scorecard in terms of one gave the round to Charles Rosa. So it's interesting how the fights that did get scored on the night, but rightfully so, the deserved winner for Derrick Minor. And there wasn't any sort of controversy with that one. Now, Chris Dakaus put on a brilliant performance, getting the finish over Alexei Olenek, of course, which is huge for Chris Dakaus's career, to have that name on your resume, albeit an Olenek who's 40 years of age. Olenek still putting some good performances over the past 2-3 years, but for Chris Dakaus, this it's his third successive finish inside the UFC now. Standing TKO finish with a minute 55 left of the round. It's an all round good win for him, and he looked phenomenal on the night. He put the pressure on, and we have got the results here, of course. 6 out of 11 strikes for Olenek, only 5 out of 10 of them. Well, 5 of them significant out of 10 attempts, 34 out of 56 strikes, all of them significant 2 for Chris Dakaus. Now, it does put him in great stand, looking at the heavyweight division here. He is up in 10th or 9th. Alex Yana actually, we've got the graphic here, haven't we? So he's in 10th, so, that's going to put Chris Cass in the top 10, do put him against Sakai. Or Abdurakhimov, maybe, potentially. I'd expect Tom Aspinall to be featuring around that top 15 after what he did this weekend as well, and we will talk about that soon. Let's see, heavyweight division outside the top 10. Give them an either of maybe a JDS, a former heavyweight champion, would look fantastic on Chris Cass's resume and on his record as well if he got the win on that. Alex just beat, Walt Harris, Ivanov, Pavlovich, Tybura, all fantastic potential fights for Chris Cass, and he deserves every single one of them. JDS would be the one for me though. After finishing a legend like Olenek, maybe give him another one, rather than maybe giving it an upcomer perhaps. So yes, moving on now, we've got Phil Hills, who did get the decision win over Nesruddin Imabov, Imayev. Pardon me if I botched that, ruined that name. 101 strikes to 128 for Phil Hills, 87 out of 124 for Imabov, 31 out of 54, and then 57 out of 93, and 4 out of 7 takedowns. So a very good night for Phil Hills on the night. 29-28, and one had it a majority. He won by a majority decision. One had it 28-28. So that's, I wonder who judged that one, because obviously he got 2 29-28s, and I think that is and was the right decision on the night. And then if you look at the stats on, going into round 1, 41 out of 20 in the first round with 2 takedowns. That for me is a Phil Hills round. 36 out of 30 with 1 takedown. Obviously, you've got to look at the effectiveness and the damage of the strikes. Or look at the numbers. You'd probably get that. You'd probably sway that to Phil Hills 2, and then 24 out of 37 in favor of Imabov in round 3. But again, 1 takedown for Phil Hills. So obviously, you've got to take damage limitations into that. And if that was potentially a 10-8 round, I'd have to rewatch the fight again. You could probably see where the 28-28 is. So if you go into that third round one, the judge who did it 28-28 probably had it 2018 to Phil Hills. So again, you probably see it, but again, it's probably one of those that I'd probably have to rewatch back and see how that goes down. But again, a good solid win for Phil Hills, and probably fight for the night. Win of the night for sure was Tom Aspinall, wasn't it? Knocking out Andrei Arlovski submitting Andrei Arlovski via rear naked choke. He put the pressure on Arlovski, and Arlovski's looked very dangerous in the last couple of fights. They've all gone to decision. He's been on a win streak, beating Philip Lin and Tanaboza, and Tom Aspinall just came in there and took everything off Arlovski. Now, I did think in the first round maybe it wasn't going to go his way because he was pouring the pressure on. I think it was 27 strikes. I think that I heard, or at least 20 strikes that were pretty much unanswered, and you're thinking, oh, Tom Aspinall was going to get in here, but Arlovski, he withstood everything that was thrown at him and looked phenomenal doing so as well. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what's next to Tom Aspinall. He's definitely, a heavyweight contender now. You probably put him in that top 15 tomorrow when it does get brought out the rankings, of course. Again, he's beaten the former heavyweight champion. That's going to look phenomenal on your resume. Do you put him up against Olenek? Maybe. Actually, that wouldn't be a bad shot, because obviously Olenek's going to drop down, and I'd like to see Tom Aspinall fight another legend to see who he can maybe pick off and work his way up the division. You're seeing how quickly Cyril Garn's got up there, and Rosenstruck got up there, of course. And obviously, I don't want to get up there too quick, because you're almost, in a traffic jam almost with Francis Ngannou, Curtis Blaydes, Derrick Lewis, and etc. So I wouldn't want to see him go too fast. So maybe a JDS, Olenek, maybe Walt Harris, and Ivanov, someone like that would be fantastic for Tom Aspinall, because he showed on Saturday night that he deserves to be within that sort of realm, within that 15 to 10 or 9, you could say. But again, 37 strikes to 18 in that first round, and again, you have to credit Arlovski's chin for not going out on that one and not sort of quitting. No, he just looked phenomenal, Tom Aspinall. He showed his wrestling capabilities as well with a fantastic, perfectly timed takedown, almost charged at Arlovski, put him up against the cage. And I think that was all she wrote in the end, because, Aspinall quickly, and almost, I think he got a hook in up against the cage, took the neck of Arlovski, and that was a very quick tap. Well, I say quick tap. He tapped quite quickly after the choke was sunk in. So yes, a phenomenal performance there from Aspinall. As the performance of the night bonus, I believe. If he didn't get one, then he needs a good shake, because he definitely deserved one. He did get performance of the night, as did Chris House, Derrick Lewis, and of course Ayman Zahabi, of course, brother to Baras Zahabi from TriStar, of course. But we'll have a quick look at the results. Of course, 22 out of 57, 41 out of 64. So landed just under double, 3 strikes under double. Of course, 20 of them significant from Arlovski, and 37 of them out of 60 for Aspinall were significant. And that 1 out of 1 takedown in the second round was I guess you could say, beginning of the end. It was a fantastic sequence. And someone that the UK and the heavyweight division, the fans of the heavyweight division, should be looking very excited for. Obviously, we've got Darren Till, Leon Edwards. We've got a number of British fights, Brendan Loughnane, they're in PFL. We've got a number of other at Bellator, Kane Mooses, of course. But we haven't really got anyone in those top weight divisions. We've got quite a few. We've got Brendan Allen down at featherweight. We've got a load coming through Cage Warriors at the moment. Obviously, Tom Aspinall did come through Cage Warriors, and he's going to be a trouble in the heavyweight division. And maybe guys, us English and us UK fans are going to have a heavyweight champion from the UK very soon. And he's still only young. He's 27, so he's still got a lot of growing to do. He's going to be an exciting prospect to watch over the next 3-4 years, and how and what he does. Obviously, I think he's maybe 3 or 4 fights before we start looking at those Overeems, Blaydes, Lewis's, and etc. And potential John Jones, Stipe Miocic. But again, you could see him beating the likes of not the likes of Pavlovich, the likes of Tabora. You could see him catching JDS on a good night, and Olenek on a good night for sure. But obviously, those are so more experienced than Aspinall. But he's got the skills, I think, to test himself at that level. So yes, let us know if you're watching. Who would you like for Aspinall next? I think I'm going to do a video on that tomorrow. Obviously, fights to make after UFC Vegas 19. I think Tom Aspinall has to be in there. It's just who could we see up there? There's a plethora of guys at heavyweight that you can see him up against, and he deserves all the plaudits he got over the weekend. Definitely performance of the night. Take my money and stick him on a. It's such a shame about this COVID time, because that UFC London card that would have been happening in a month's time would have been perfect for Tom Aspinall, or even a Liverpool card, you could say. That would have made more sense to have it in the north, obviously, with Leon Edwards, Darren Till, and Aspinall. Booking to that northern crowd from England and the UK. Get Jaron Calderwood on there, get Casey O'Neill on there, who's had a fantastic debut. It's some great and up-and-coming fighters happening. Obviously, got some other from Ireland as well, with Reece McKee, etc. So yes, maybe the next one, or you go over to Dublin, they deserve a card too. But yes, moving on to the rest of the results, of course. We saw Jared Corden beat Danny Chavez via submission in round 3. Actually, was it a decision? I think I've got that messed up. It was a decision, sorry, I've not changed the graphic on that. So John Castaneda beat Eddie Wineland by a standard TKO. It was in round 1. I think the right decision. Eddie Wineland took a lot of damage, and I'm interested to know, maybe. I wonder how much referees, obviously they are unbiased, but I wonder how much they take into account previous results, the age of the fighter. If they've been knocked out, because he had that knockout against Sean O'Malley last year, didn't he? That was brutal. I wonder how much judges play a part into that, whether, if he was a 22, 23-year-old kid, if they'd let him go a little longer. Someone who's still got a lot of their career ahead of them. It'd be interesting to see how that almost gets weighed up. And if you do know that, let us know in the comments down below as well. Julian Erosa put on a sublime performance against Nate Landwehr with a stunning flying knee. He put on a lot of pressure. He got wobbled himself, but he got through it. And again, I do think that was a good stoppage by, I think it was Herdina stopped that fight. It might have been Jason Herzog, actually. But I think that was it. We talk about protecting the fighters and saving the fighters to fight for another day. And that, for me, was a good stoppage. I know Nate Landwehr contested the stoppage, saying he was still there. But when you take a knee flush to the jaw like that, almost like well, not almost like that. Chris Weidman, the Romero, because obviously Chris Weidman did get knocked out. But boy, when you take it flush with June, especially after taking 4-5 unanswered strikes, I think that is a good stoppage and, let him fight to another day. Albeit he has fallen to 14-4 now. But Julian Rose is looking a problem. Obviously coming through the Contender Series, I believe. No, I thought it was on the. Oh yeah, it was Contender Series 2018. He beat Jamel Emmers. Was supposed to perform last night against that as well. He would then went on a 3-fight loss streak. Got dropped to Cage Sport, and then he'd come back in and looked fantastic with 2 finishes in consecutive fights. And again, he could be a problem. What weight is he? 145. So he's featherweight 6'1". Was that a featherweight battle last night? Or Saturday night, should I say? No, yeah, featherweight battle. So he's 6'1". Like, I think he's a lot taller than Max Holloway. Who's 5'9", 5'10", I think. Well, actually, no, he's 5'11", but he looks, he's very tall, very lean for that weight class. And you could say the same for Julian Rosa. Now we go on to Casey O'Neill that defeated Shayna Dobson by KO or TKO in that second round. She did make a UFC debut, of course, and looked absolutely phenomenal doing so last night. I say last night, it was Saturday night. 132 strikes landed out of 183, up against 27 and 42, 16 of them significant for Shayna Dobson on the night, while 49 out of 68 of them were significant for Casey O'Neill. And she got 4 out of 5 takedowns, and she showed an absolutely phenomenal, display of herself. She showed that what she can do on the feet and what she can do on the ground. Obviously, coming through Eternal MMA and UAE Warriors, Scottish-born, Australian-grown. She carried both legs in there last night and made both sides of the globe. Very proud of her and what she's done. And she's going to be a handful for that flyweight division in many years to come. 6-0 now. Shayna Dobson, it was a good litmus test for her. She's not anyone you could almost say is a can. She's 4-5 in a record, but that's no mean feat. With who she fought, Maria Agapova, she beat. Obviously, Agapova's high on the list of many a fighter. She lost to Nico Montana, flyweight champion, Sabina Marzo, Priscilla Cachoeira, and Laura Mueda. So she's got some losses that are quite respectable, and obviously the Agapova win, she was so much the underdog and so unfavored in that fight that it was a huge upset. And obviously Casey O'Neill, she's well traveled and well trained over at Tiger Muay Thai. She's been training she's trained in the Apex and Extreme Couture. She's obviously done a lot of training where she's grown up and come into this game in Australia. So she's got a lot of experience around with her. And obviously, being in that flyweight division, training at Tiger Muay Thai, you could be looking at either Valentina or Antonina Shevchenko's in the gym. Brandon Locknane, as you mentioned, has been in the gym over there. Tiger Muay Thai, Petty Yan, bantamweight champion over there. So there's a plethora of experience and a wealth of knowledge and MMA knowledge to learn from over at Tiger Muay Thai. And that's only going to make her look even better. Only 23 years old. She's 3-4 weeks older than me. And she's making her debut in the UFC and getting wins. So she's got a long career ahead of her and a very successful one at that. And she's going to be in that rankings probably maybe by the end of next year, maybe even sooner than that if she puts performances on that she did last night. Now from here, I want to see this England-Scotland rival. I wanted to see it with Joanne Cordell and Manu Buchanan. I don't think we're gonna. I'd love to see Casey O'Neill and Manu Buchanan square off in Glasgow or in Liverpool in a couple years or in a year, maybe max, SSC Glasgow, or let's get it done in Liverpool and let's get the fans a treat because that fight would go off. We know what England versus Scotland does for the rivalry. Europe MMA, shout out to you, buddy, but it would be a good scrap, wouldn't it? And yeah, we need to see more. We need to see more in the north in Scotland, in Manchester and Liverpool and Newcastle. We need to see more events. We've got London and the O2 almost nailed down, but we need some other. I know we had Thompson and Mastal in Liverpool a couple of years ago. But yes, a sublime debut from Casey O'Neill. Ayman Zahavi, as we mentioned, defeated Draco Rodriguez in the first round, looked phenomenal again. And Sergey Spivak beat Shari Delandre, who was making his debut after coming off the Contender Series, had called out Spivak in his sort of post-fight interview with Laura Sanko. And when he got a contract, he called out Sergey Spivak again. Didn't quite, work off him. You've got to be careful what you wish for in this game. And he looked okay. I do think this was a very late stoppage. He took 35, 40 strikes more than he needed to. He looked done. There was quite a class of difference and different, but he didn't deserve, to take that extra damage. And it's going to be interesting to see. I hope we see him in the UFC again. I hope we see him fight again. He should do. He's 11-5. That isn't a bad loss, but hopefully we see him again in 2021 at least. And maybe you put him up you get him a more balanced opponent. But again, you got to be courageous in the sport. You got to shoot your shot. Just unfortunately, it didn't work out for him on the night. And there's nothing wrong with that, really. Just going to have a quick look at the statistics of that fight as well. Make sure to hit that subscribe button as well if you're watching on YouTube. Hit that follow button if you're watching on Facebook or Twitch. So yeah, 27 strikes out of 38 for whereDerrick compared to 107 and out of the 135 for Sergey Spivak. So, a heavy loss for him in terms of the output and the differential in strikes. 69 out of 9 strikes in round 2 after 1 takedown. I think 40 of them out of that 69 that round were too many, to be honest. They weren't being answered. And I think it was Chris Dione, pardon me if I got that wrong, who was referee in that fight. And I do think he got pulled away a little too late. But yes, a good win for Sergey Spivak. I think that was actually, did that get him put back in the win column after a loss? I know he's on the 2-fight win streak now after being Carlos Felipe in July, of course, before losing to Marcin Tybura. So yeah, a good result there for Sergey Spivak, and a good night of fights. It started off well, petered out a bit in the middle, and then we've got that fantastic, showreel knockout by Derrick Lewis in the second round in the main event. And it sets us up nicely for next week at UFC Vegas 20. Of course, the heavyweights come back and continue with Rosenstruck versus Gane. That's going to be an incredible bout. Let's have a quick rundown of the card there. You've got Nikita Krylov versus Ankalaev. Obviously, Ankalaev coming off the back of that loss to Iron Kutalaba. We've got Montana De La Rosa on that card, Pedro Muniz. Jimmy Rivera could be fantastic. Angela Hill, Ashley Yoda. Angela Hill's a fun fight to watch. She always brings it on the night. Alex Caceres, Kevin Groom's going to be a good one. Alexander Hernandez is fighting Alexis Davis. Alonzo Menifield with knockout. It's got a heavy hitter in there, so it is a good card next week. And we'll of course be previewing it before the fights kick off. Of course, on Saturday night, so make sure to hit that subscribe button as we mentioned, so you don't miss any of that. And we'll see you guys tomorrow for fights to make after UFC Vegas 19.